school dropout has become an issue.
What ails the education sector in the state of Meghalaya? We need a complete overhauling of the education system.
The parents are not motivated to send them to school because they don't see any change after they finish education.
Education is such a sector that if you take initiative today, it will not solve tomorrow.
Pictures of the CM in the tablet, pictures of CM in the guidebook. These interventions won't change anything in our state. Egos should be buried right now.
The government, one after another, is politicizing education. Education was compromised just because of politics.
Thank you, Sir Adrian, for that warm welcome, and a very good morning to each and everyone present here. I am very happy to see many young faces in the audience, and trust me, this discussion will be worth your time. And I also take this opportunity to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Department of Education, Synod College, for agreeing to co-host this event with us, because I know that the discussion on education is the need of the hour, because we are facing the picture that the dropout rate is very high in the state and the situation is very grim. So I feel that we need discussions like these, to make a clarion call so that we can come out with actionable recommendation to ensure that the future of our students, the future of our state is bright. So I also take this opportunity to once again welcome our guests, Dr. Passah, Dr. Shangpliang, Professor Nongbri, Dr. Jemino, and Mr. Banphira, Basaiawmoit. So we all know that education being the pillar of the society, without it, the progression towards the future is vague. I mean, the future is very bleak. So that is why it is very important to formulate and to regulate policies to ensure that education is accessible, to ensure that education is affordable for all. But the question here is, have we been able to ensure, or have we been able to prioritize education to make it accessible and affordable to all? Because if we have, then why is the dropout rate in the state very high? So in today's discussion, we will try to dissect the problem, we'll try to analyze and come out with solutions that are practical, because we know that every district, every village in our state have different problems and one solution will not fit them all. So we need to come up with solutions that are practical, that can be implemented in the ground. So hence, I believe that the outcome of this discussion will help our policymakers to come up with solutions that can be implemented and can benefit not only our students, our children, but also our educators. So I would like to put this first question to Dr. Passah. Doctor, you have conducted a thorough research on dropout. And we know that the dropout rate in the state is at the secondary level is 21.7, which is the highest in the Northeast and third highest in the country. So, ma'am, you have traveled to these villages, especially in Garo Hills, and you've seen the situation firsthand. What, according to you, are the main problems that plague our, education system?
Thank you, Iban, for having me here. So, despite the best efforts of the government to address the issue of challenge, we can say that, in spite of those facts, there are many efforts which has been taken. But then the figures or the dropout is impacting our sector in such a manner that the situation is so grim, and it's also a concerning. And the solution to address them is as difficult, because in Meghalaya, as you've rightly said, that the problem varies from district to district and also from block within the districts and to villages. The problem is all different. So one size fit all solution is not there. So, and based on our studies, we find that, at the lower primary level and in upper primary section and secondary section, one there are multiple reasons which contribute to this, and all factors are intertwined or interconnected to each other. And the figures at some of the district is so high that it's more worrisome for the state. So, as an organization, Center for Research in Scheme and Policy, so it is an outside organization formed by 10 retired IAS officers who wanted to give back to the society, and we work pro bono for the state. So we conduct research in order to understand the intensity of the problem before we come to any solution. So now we are working with the system on the invite of the government, and we sign an MOU, and after making these studies we come up with a solution. So we work along with the system to support them to bind those efforts, because there are many fragmented efforts, be it by the department or the organizations, different organizations we have that who's doing something or the other for dropout. But and then there are many awareness programs. But then we see that as years pass by, this problem is added. So we see that the learning level, as the ACER report, the annual status report of education, have proved that learning level of children at different level is also very low. So Meghalaya is no exception to that. And then we find that the National Sample Survey Organization, they have stated that 1/3 of teachers in India do not have the desired qualification, and Meghalaya again is no exception to that. And then we have the UNESCO, who's saying that the COVID-19 pandemic have really impacted the education sectors. So again, Meghalaya is no exception to that. And the use of technology, where we encourage children at that time, because we have to, give them phones, telephones and all that. And it have blocked also the critical and the creative thinking of the child. So, and some over-dependency on, using the technology in a negative manner has also impacted the dropout rate. And the very interesting fact is we find that the lack of interest of children, which cut across all spectrum, be it at the lower primary, be it at the upper primary or the secondary level. And then added to these problems, poverty, large family size, and even if children are interested to study, but they have to take care of the siblings at home. And then we find that, and then the pupil-teacher ratio, Meghalaya has a very favorable pupil-teacher ratio, but then the uniformity of teachers at every schools is not the same. We have many schools with single teachers, and then there are some schools with high enrollment children, but then less teachers, and then infrastructures where one teacher or two teachers has to cater to classes from pre-nursery up to the, class. If we look at the lower primary section, they have to tackle up to the, say the class 5, and then in the same classroom, they have to share, and that promote rote learning among the children, and then divided attention. And then we see that the trend of eloping is also one factor at the secondary level, and then a shift, and then a shift in the medium of language from lower primary when they go to upper primary and in secondary, then they find difficulties. So, and then they tend to be discriminated, and then it affects their performance. And
yes, so Dr. Irene, we can talk more about the different problems. So I want to put this, like you mentioned, that we understand that there are different factors, there are interconnected factors that leads to high dropout rates in the state, and this dropout is high in at all levels, not just the secondary levels like you mentioned. So I want to put forward this next question to Dr. Jemino. So in one of our interviews in one of our recent interview with the Director of School Education and Literacy, Mr. Swapnil Tempe, he mentioned that accessibility and connectivity are some of the major factors that contribute to the high dropout rate. So, and sir, being an academician and at the same time being a politician, I believe you've traversed the difficult terrains of the state and you've witnessed this firsthand. So what do you think is the solution to this problem, sir?
Respected moderator, Kong Iban, I could not refuse when she asked me to also be part of this panel discussion today. Esteemed panelists, well, at the outset, let me begin by saying that education is not only a privilege, but education is also a fundamental right. And when we talk of education, education actually leads to not only individual development, but professional development as well as social development. And education is one of the most important indicator as far as Human Development Index is concerned. But the concern now is the school dropouts. Now, why are we having so many school dropouts? I mean, the number, as far as the UDISE report, especially relating to secondary education, and as mentioned by the speaker, it has gone up to 21.7% or something like that. So this is quite alarming, and this is very high. If you consider, you know, when we talk about the educational system here in the state of Meghalaya, I would also like to express my appreciation, because a lot of studies also has been done on school dropouts, and the study done by CRIPS under the leadership of Dr. Minnette, Passah, has been very comprehensive, where she has highlighted the problems, not only the individual problems, the institutional problems, the socio-economic problems, and so on and so forth. And the findings which she has pointed out, which she has highlighted, I think this is quite a concern as far as the state of Meghalaya is concerned. Now, if we talk about the causes, the reasons of this dropout, there are varied reasons as mentioned. If you talk about the problem of dropout in Meghalaya as such as of now, I think it is really alarming. If we compare it with other states in India, even big states in India, do not have so much of this problem like a small state like Meghalaya, of which we are encountering now. So it is a very sad state of affairs. And since Kong Iban has asked me to say a few things about, you were saying about the accessibility and all that, right? See, if you talk about the problems of dropouts, what are the reasons? As spelled out by, I would like to reiterate. Is it poverty? Is it because of the lack of interest of students? Is it because of the lack of parental care? Is it because of the lack of infrastructure? Is it because of the lack of untrained teachers? Is it because of the lack of innovative teaching and learning? Is it because of the pedagogical problems that we're facing here as a state? Is it because of planning? Is it because of administration? Is there a need for overhauling the entire educational system in the state? See, these are big issues, let me tell you. But if you talk about the link that the school dropouts is having with other factors, there's so many things. That the other day when I was talking to Iban, I was saying that we need a complete overhauling of the education system. But there are also problems, remember, because education is also a concurrent subject. And the state also has a huge responsibility here in addressing the issues relating to the education sector. Now the big question is, from where do we start? So it's very sad when you talk about the state of Meghalaya. Now the big question is, why are we having so much of dropouts in the state? So this is something which is quite complex, but I feel that we need to start somewhere. And if you ask me, from where do we start? I think we have to go right down from the bottom level. When NEP now is talking so much about foundational literacy, I think that foundational part is very important. We're talking about problem-solving skills. We're talking about critical skills. We're talking about a thinking ability. We're talking about collaborative learning, experiential learning, and so on and so forth. And this is what has been emphasized as far as the NEP is concerned. So we need to take, we need to look into this aspect and try to fine-tune and see from where have we as a state, where have we gone wrong? What ails the education sector in the state of Meghalaya? We have created this mess now for the last 52 years, when we should have really gone up, because once upon a time, Shillong, the capital city of Meghalaya, also was known as the knowledge city, as the knowledge hub. Now where are we when we talk about the status and quality of education?
Thank you, Ba. Professor Nongbri, I'm going to come to you. Professor, let's talk about the cultural attitudes to the gender roles in our society. There is a saying that, especially in the rural areas, that daughters' education are given more priority and compared to the sons, because if you come from a poor family, sons are asked to leave school and to support the family and to look for a job. So how do we as a society, ma'am, how can we address this problem and we change the mindset of the people? Of course, I know there are different financial difficulties that the family is facing, but how can we bring about a change whereby, we ensure that a child below the age of 16 or 18 receive that education, the right to education as mandated by RTE?
Thank you, Iban. This is really a very, very important topic, and it is really a cause of concern to the state as a whole. Let me just come directly to the area that I was asked to say a few things. I think I beg to differ with you a little bit. When you mentioned that education is preferably to girls. I know this is a matrilineal society, but I must say that with regards to education, I feel that we have a very equal opportunity for both boys and girls. But the interesting part is, of course, girls, if you find out their enrollment in the state at the school level, they are better off than the boys. Looking at the performance at the exam also, they're comparatively doing well. But the statistics shows that enrollment is more of boys than girls, This is very interesting. Though a matrilineal society favor giving the opportunity to both girls and boys, but still the enrollment is still, the statistics shows that boys' enrollment are still higher than the girls' enrollment. At least our society gives the same opportunity to both girls and boys. And when it comes to the social attitudes or values that we as a society have towards education, yes, some of the reasons has come out that it is the lack of interest on the part of the students to come to school, and also the parents are not motivated to send them to school because they don't see any change after they finish education. But yet the government has taken many initiatives, as mentioned rightly by Sir, that the right to education provides compulsory education for everyone. So the government has taken initiative to involve the community in many areas, like monitoring the school system. But I must say again, because of the poverty, of the socio-economic condition that we have in the society, yes, we understand at the urban level, parents are very involved, but when it comes to rural areas, they hardly have time for their children. We are the monitor institutions also then. But when we really go to the ground and find out, parents has little time to go to the school to find out whether teachers are really attending regularly, whether the teaching, learning is taking place as it is expected, and whether the intervention that is supposed to be given on the SSA is being implemented very, rightly or not. Yes, we can have many strategies, and the foundational stage that is being mentioned in the NEP 2020. This is a very good approach, I should say, that the government has taken up. Because unless and until we give the real foundation at this level, it will be difficult for them. Make them ready for learning. It will be difficult for them to,
Yes, Professor. I think,
Thank you.
I think that is also why our pass percentage is not very good. It's dismal. Because when we talk about the pass percentage, how can you expect the percentage or the students to come up with flying color if the foundation is not good? So coming back to poverty, I would like to ask this question to Dr. Shangpliang. So if you look at the per capita income, Meghalaya is among the lowest in the country. Now the recent report of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister revealed that the current per capita income of Meghalaya is 74.3%, lower than our sister states of Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram and Nagaland. And we know that the financial difficulties in every family or every household varies. And this also puts pressure on the young children. Most of them at the age of 14, 15, they have to leave home to look for a job to support the family. And it is a nightmarish vision for the future of these kids. Now, how can these youth come out of that nightmare? What are the different strategies that we can adopt, that the state can adopt, that the society, that the community can adopt to ensure that, at least children get their due share of education?
Okay, thank you so much, Kong Iban, for inviting me also to this panel discussion. And thanks to all the co-panelists. I will not name one by one. Sir, everyone, madam. And to the college which I am proudly part of, Synod College, madam here who is with us, and my dear students. This is a very interesting topic, and when I got the news that I should talk about this topic, it came to my mind that this is not merely a topic, but it has become an issue. School dropout has become an issue. And why I'm so interested is because I believe that at one point of time, we were at the glorious peak of our education, just like Sir had mentioned. But what happened down the line? What happened throughout the years? This has a historical, attachment to that also, which I will not speak of here. But when we say dropout, school dropout, it simply means that a student stopped going to school. And in our age, in this modern advanced world, we cannot think of anyone who will not be attending school, especially the students. Everyone has the right to attend to school. Everyone has the right to education. Now, who will give them the education? That is a question. Is it by the parents? Is it by the teachers? Is it by the community? Or is it by the government? Why I'm saying that is because when you mention about poverty, poverty is not just like it come out yesterday. It has also its historical attachment as well. And families who belong to low-income, families, they are struggling day by day to send the children to school. And when they send their children to school and when they don't see the outcome of that education that they have spent so much, despite the low income that they have, they will stop sending the children to school immediately. And that happens in our state. Who will believe? Who will believe that our state is having this problem? When you look at the way the government is spending on unnecessary things, who will believe that Meghalaya will be the second highest dropout rate in the nation? The 21.7% in the state of Meghalaya is more than the average of the national percentage, which is 12 point something. So that is not only alarming, that is very, very dangerous. We are heading into a state where we send our students to school just for experiment's sake, just for the schemes of the government. But we are not committing to give them a proper education. That's why we have lots and lots of research and studies being done. But what about the practicality of those research? How much have we implemented them in the last so many years? Now, the first thing that came to my mind when we talk about the school dropouts is what are the factors that led to this dropout? As we have said, we have heard other panelists said that foundation is one important thing. But when you don't have the foundation, when you don't make a school an interesting place for students to go, how will they be able to learn also? Students, they go to schools with the thought that they will learn something. But they went there out of compulsion or out of being forced by somebody. Because why? The school is not a place of fun to learn. A school is taxation for them, a burdensome for them, with marks and percentage and whatnot. That is also one factor. Another factor is that some of them, they drop out because they were forced by the families or out of compulsion because of poverty, as you mentioned. Another thing is that the syllabus and the curricula were designed in such a way that the students, they gain knowledge, but they don't know how to use it. At least the NEP talks of something about life skills, skill this, skill that. But that was not implemented in the lower section. Now it started from the top section. Now what is the use of starting from the top when the foundation is being compromised already? Now, let me say one more thing. In our state, why I think, the government, all these years, we have heard stories and we have seen it by ourselves, that the monitoring system of the government has failed throughout the years. Earlier, we used to heard about, inspectors of schools or inspectors, of DSEO or officials of the government. They will go for surprise inspection of schools to see whether classes are going on, to see the administration in the schools, to see teachers are regular in the schools or not. Nowadays, we don't hear about that, and that is malpractice, I can say for sure. Why? Because of the monitoring system which has failed. And why? What happened in between that? I think all of you must agree with me that the failure of the government is simply leading to all these problems that the students, our dear students, are facing day by day. And another thing, the apathy of the government to the teachers. Let us not forget that. Now we are talking about school dropout. It doesn't mean that we cannot talk about the teachers, because they are intertwined with one another. They depend on each other. The apathy of our government, not only the present government, but even the earlier governments towards the teachers, is one crucial factor. Now you tell me, how will a student or students feel when they see the teachers who are supposed to be in the school or in the classrooms are agitating the streets? How will the students feel when their teachers are being charged with tear gas in the streets of Shillong? And we must not also forget that nowadays technology helps us and it ruins us as well if we don't know how to use it. And hence these factors, which are few among the others which we can name, plenty of them, are some of the problems that we have to address immediately. And the biggest of all is that the failure of the government. We have education ministers who sit in the chair who don't understand the problem. Sometimes and many times, and recently we have seen that our state accepted some of the policies of the central government without understanding the educational scenario of our own. Example, the NEP, example, the CUET, and many others which we can name. So when we take it overall, we can understand that when you don't have a strong, a competent, and efficient government, you are bound to have these problems, and the sufferers are the students and the teachers, the parents, and the whole society. Thank you. That's all from my part.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Banphira Basaiawmoit, I'll come to you. So other than being the Vice President of the Meghalaya Youth Congress, you're also a school administrator. And I believe you've encountered so many of these problems as well. So besides the financial difficulties that the students face, which compel them to drop out of school, what are the other, the other reasons that they face? And what are the strategies that, let's say in your school, that you take to retain these students?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Synod College. Thank you, Forefront Media, for the opportunity to share the dice with the esteemed panelists. Before I answer your question, Kong, let me state some points, which is, because numbers don't lie, like the welcome address, she mentioned about the dropout rate, which is alarming. The first point I want to make is, which we all know, India has the highest youth population, has one of the highest youth population in the world. Point two, Meghalaya, with a population of more than 35 lakhs, 70% of this population are youth between the age group of 18 to 35 years. Recent reports, point number three, we've read, we've seen, we've heard that in Meghalaya right now, the number of drug users has reached or has touched 3 lakhs. Point number four, in 2024, the MBO's SSLC examination, the total number of students who appeared for the board exams was around 54,000. The number of the pass percentage was 55. 30,000 plus students passed the exams. 24,000 students failed the exams. Now, the cumulative of all these numbers for, let's say, 5 years, we would have around 1 lakh of students who are out of the system. If this number is not being enrolled back to mainstream education, this number that we have is a very high, it's a very vulnerable number that can be, that these numbers can turn to possible drug users, which will also increase the percentage of drug users in the state. Now, this panel that we have today, I hope after the discourse, we will be able to narrow down on the problems, we'll be able to narrow down on the solutions regarding the dropout rates in Meghalaya. We've heard about NEP 2020. Let me address this bit also. The NEP 2020, the system that they have put in place now, where we have a 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 system, where you have the elementary education, that is for 5 years, the kindergarten, class 1, class 2, where the learning would be activity-based, learning will be in a very fun format. Then you come to the plus 3 again, that is from class 3, 4, 5, where foundational education would take place. Again, students will learn in a fun manner. Then you have another middle stage from class 6, 7, and 8, where students will be introduced to vocational courses, 10 backless days in a calendar year for the school. Then we have the secondary level of 4 years, class 9, 10, 11, and 12, whereby the system says that we want to develop critical thinking in our students. This is what our students lack right now, critical thinking. Now, if you look at the NEP 2020, it is aligned with the 2030 agenda of the United Nations, which was established in 2015, where it mentions that one of the sustainable development goal is quality education. And as we've heard, education in our state, and even in India for a fact, is in the doldrums right now. We are trying to find out ways to improve the education system. Let us take our example. When we were in school, and I'm not sure what about the students today, but when we were in school, we were programmed to be ekdam number one. We are programmed to be in the race. If we are not in the race, we drop out. Nobody would want to participate in a race where we are losing. So we have to develop a system, an educational system, whereby it'll be more of collaborative effort, less of competition. In one of the in countries where education system is the best, we've seen that they have put effort on collaborative learning, less on exams. And I'm so sad. I'm sad to hear, that we are concentrating on the pass percentage. The NEP 2020 is also in line with the it's called the Foreign Educational Institutions 2010 bill, which was introduced by the then Congress government and now accepted by the BJP. Here, even foreign universities now are allowed to open campuses in India without an Indian partner. And I hope this will be a big game changer for us, where the corpus fund of the universities will be more than 50 crores. And we, as a nation, as a state, we should let go of this competitive spirit in education. We will be able to transform our society only if we collaborate. I feel the students nowadays, you're talking about the dropout rates, the economic factors, socio-economic factors. Our society, the Khasi society especially, I come from a Khasi family background, we don't have a budget for education. We may be poor, but we don't have a budget. I've studied your research, ma'am, and I don't see anywhere mentioning that a family have a budget for education. If we pass the exams, we run from pillar to post to search for someone to fund our studies. And in the process, if the funds are not enough, we drop out. So that's my opening statement for the afternoon. And I hope that by the end of the discourse, we'll really come up with solutions. Problems are plenty, but it's our time to find the solutions.
Thank you, Banphira. Dr. Jemino, I'll come back to you. Since your party, since the United Democratic Party is a coalition partner in the government, and since a UDP leader, Balakmen Malakmen Rumboi, had once held the education portfolio, I just wanted to ask this question. During his tenure and during when the UDP, when Balakmen was the
political question, right?
No, it has something to do with education also. So, when he was the education minister, was there any study conducted or an inspection conducted based on the performance of these schools in rural areas, especially in Garo Hills, where the past performance is very poor? And if the inspections were conducted, what were the observations and what were the actions taken to correct these flaws that are in the system?
It will be a little bit difficult for me to respond to that question because in the first place, I'm not the education minister at that point of time. But I believe that, as Dr. Minnette has mentioned, that government also has taken a lot of initiative to address the issues of, all the issues which has plagued the education sector. I'm not saying that the government has not done, whether it's the central government or the state government, but somehow things have gone wrong. Maybe in the implementation part, maybe as Dr. Shangpliang also has mentioned about lack of monitoring and evaluation, because that is also an aspect that we need to look into if we are to know what are the problems that are there in the different districts, in the different villages, in the different schools, and so on and so forth. So I feel that in spite of the fact that government has taken a lot of initiative, but I feel that we have not done much. Let me be very candid, let me be very open. Because I remember in 2017, when a question was raised in the assembly, the then education minister had replied that in 4 years' time, more than 1 lakh students have dropped out. So the issue of dropping out from school is not happening like, it was not happening yesterday only, or last year, or this year, but it has been going on for many years altogether. And that is why I feel that in spite of the government's effort and initiative, we have missed out on certain things. Because like I said, you know, the issue is very complicated, the issue is very complex, and the problems are very diverse also. That's why I was saying right from the beginning, if you ask me about overhauling of the education sector, I'm all for it, but where's the resources? Where's the money? You know, we also need to think about these aspects. So I feel that at this point of time, when we see these problems that are emanating in the education sector, I feel that let us touch on some of the important issues while also addressing the larger issues. Okay, touch on those issues. For instance, if we are talking about school dropouts, as mentioned by our young friend here, Banphira, I really like what he has put forward to all of us. You know, when we talk about the youth population, we have a sizable youth population in the state of Meghalaya, and if this youth population are out of school, out of the educational system, where do you think these youths are? Are they employed? Are they productively engaged, whether in the family, whether in any place that they may be? That is the big question. So the big question is, when we look at these youths, if we have a sizable youth population out of school, and in spite of the initiatives that has been taken by the government, the big question is, are they going to become liabilities or assets to the state of Meghalaya? That is why I feel government has to take the initiative, you know, and to look at this as a priority agenda. We need to start somewhere, and let us start from the beginning, at least so that the next generation will not suffer. We pick them young, we start at a young age, give the best, and let, as Banphira has mentioned, that there should also be joy in learning. And if we talk about education, it has to be looked at as a complete package. No? It is not only about academic development, it's about psychological, it's about physical development, emotional, spiritual, and so on and so forth. So a complete package. So when students comes to these institutions, these institutions also needs to be appealing, no? Attractive. There'll be joy in learning. Otherwise, if that is not there, then they will not be motivated. And even parents also will not be motivated. And as it is, if you look at parents now, parents will say, what is the point in educating our children when there are no job opportunities? That is also there. So why spend so much, you know, on education and all that? We invest so much on education, but where are the opportunities?
True. And I believe that 1 lakh number that you had cited in 2017 must have to increase, because according to a study conducted by Dr. Minnette, the number increases every year. So that is a concern for our state.
I just want to add something regarding what Sir has said just now. During the time of Baklakaman Rumboy as the education minister, it was at the time that remember the contractual teachers who were chased out of the job were fired with tear gas near Secretariat office. It was at that time that the students of those schools, they were wondering, or they were surprised that how our teachers are being treated by the government. Now why I'm saying that? As long as the government puts efforts in the right direction, that will be okay. But why the problem arises now is because the government, one after another, is politicizing education. We can see right from the time of the Congress government, when the tablet was distributed to the students, the first thing that they will see in those tablets is the face of the Chief Minister, Dr. Mukul Sama at the time. And now the government is distributing or selling, I don't know, the CM guidebooks. And the first thing that they will see is the face of the chief minister. If that is not politicizing of education, what is it? Now we have a history of education ministers who stay silent when atrocities was met by the teachers. We have education ministers who had a hand in tampering the result of the recruitment of teachers. See, all these has an effect. Why? Because education was compromised just because of politics. So if we don't learn from that history, I don't think we will come out of this problem that we have right now.
Thank you, Doctor. Yes.
I would like to add to that. It's very unfortunate that the teachers have to hit the streets and all that. But as mentioned by Dr. Shangpliang, that when we talk about the education sector, education system in the state of Meghalaya, past successive governments also has a hand. Like, when we talk about the failure, that we have not been able to address the important issues that has plagued the education sector. So it is not only now, it was right from before. We should have had a plan, a vision on how do we take the education sector forward as far as the state is concerned. Because when we have created the mess for so many years, to change things overnight, it is next to impossible. Let me tell you. To change things overnight, it is next to impossible because you require so many other things also that needs to be in place. So that is what I'm saying. But I'm not disagreeing with him because I feel that, if this is the problem, then we have to make extra effort, to come up with some kind of educational planning to touch on these different issues as far as the state is concerned.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jemino. And I do agree that, there have been speculations and there have been statements by various leaders saying that education has been politicized in the state, and there have been many instances as well. So let's come back to the topic concerned. I'll ask this question to Dr. Minnette. Doctor, we know that the number of untrained teachers in our state also is comparatively very high, which is a cause of concern as well. And if you look at I know you have seen it firsthand when you went to Garo Hills and you went to conduct this research, looking for answers. You've seen the schools. Many of those schools in Garo Hills don't have roofs, don't have tables, don't have benches, don't have blackboards. Forget about teachers. Teachers don't come to the school. So if this is the kind of infrastructure that we have in place, if teachers are not going to school, many of them, we also face a problem of proxy teachers as well. So there's a saying that there is one of the initiatives, one of the recommendations given to the government that teachers should be included in the policy making process to ensure that whatever is being discussed at the top level, it should be implemented. The implementation should be practical in the ground level. So what do you have to say about this, ma'am?
Thank you for the question. I guess, the students and the audience listening would be thinking that there would be no solution to it. So, but then let me tell you, very recently, as an organization who support the initiative of the government, so when it comes to dropout, so as we've heard that there are, lack of monitoring, and then what happened is we have submitted recommendations to the government to tackle dropout, and that is to have in a campaign mode. When we say campaign, not just for the sake of a campaign to reduce dropout or to solve dropout. So that, all these issues which you are mentioning, lack of infrastructure, so there can be baseline studies. So then, a survey at the beginning of the campaign, and then middle line, whether improvement has been there or not, as we have seen that, the problem is different from district to district, block to block, and then, all these problems. Because sometimes, I'll tell you, as if a school management committee or the head teachers, they take it seriously and, they are very engaged, then we find that the infrastructure in those schools also improved. But then, if they are not engaged, then we find that, maybe they not even bother to even write one letter, say to the school education, to the DSEO or the, state, to say that these are where we need, remedial, additional, say, costs, so that to improve on the infrastructure. So that is also one thing. So, and then, parents, if the teacher is absent, as you say, proxy teachers absent, parents don't take the responsibility. They're not even aware. So, and then we say that, and then if even we track, there might be some loopholes, but then if the parents, the community, the SMC's members, they are involved, then this problem comes to light. Or we have even the student organization. Many a times they bring to light certain issues where we see that there is improvement. And again, I would reiterate iterate to what the education minister was saying, that NEP 2020 was a blessing in disguise for Meghalaya, because it focused on the 5 years foundational stage. So now we are in the process of, and we know that brain development happened. Some studies says up to the age of 6 years, and some studies says up to the age of 8 years, the brain development happened. So we're trying to come up with a curriculum which would be child-friendly, and also have the prepare all schools to have that 5 years foundational stage, or even in some cases where the Anganwadi is giving these pre-primary education, so we can strengthen them, because even from the Ministry of Child Welfare and Education, they've come up with a curriculum. And then NEP 2020 also, they have suggested for a curriculum. So the state is in the process of forming these curriculum, and then to start implementing, so that at least when the foundational stage is strong, then these issues will be minimized as it go forward. And then I would like to also put my statement that education is such a sector that if you take initiative today, it will not solve tomorrow. It will take a longer time. So maybe with NEP 2020, and then we get to focus, say, on the secondary level, where we get to focus on the vocational aspects, and then we get to focus on skill development. So if, we really overhaul our curriculum and taking into consideration the a curriculum which will be, which will help to develop life skills, vocational skills, which is cited at the NEP 2020. I think so in a few years from now, maybe 5 years, 10 years, we will be able to tackle the problem. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. We've talked a lot about a strong foundation, and we talk also about how to make learning fun, to impart real life skills. Dr. Nongbri, Professor Nongbri, I would like to ask you this question. Now, the NEP specifies that, you need to impart these vocational skills and all of that. And unfortunately for our state, unlike other states of India, the approach is down to top. But in here, top to bottom approach has been taken. So how can we strengthen a foundation when the approach is from the top down? So, and one more thing, if you look at the curriculum in Meghalaya, it's a little often misaligned. It doesn't suit the, the real life challenges that we face, and thereby, some of the students, they lose interest. How can we address this problem? And do you think that NEP, if implemented in letter and spirit, can address this issue?
Thank you for that very important questions, Ivan. Before I go into that to answer your question, I just would like to answer, to what our panelist has just mentioned. Number one is the financial resources. We don't have the financial resources to keep everything in place. In the implementation of Sarva Siksha Abhiyan, I must be honest that as a monitoring institution, we have gone to the ground to find out, what is happening. The very sad thing is that because education is a concurrent list, the money comes from the center to the state. But the delay, in getting the fund from the center, that itself is, we have plenty of funds that we have to surrender because the state cannot implement those schemes that are meant to be implemented in the state. The society, the community are not aware of these benefits or the schemes that are supposed to be taken by the beneficiaries. Money, financial resources is not a problem, but it is the problem of implementation that is lacking. Yes, when we talk about the curriculum, which you have mentioned very rightly, the curriculum, what we have been doing all along is passive curriculum, which teacher has a very important role to play in the education system. We hardly involve our students to be part of the learning, teaching learning process, which is very, very important. I must say the teacher, sir has rightly mentioned that the teacher should be accountable to the students. And if they are not taken care, how can they be accountable to the system as a whole? Finland is one country which, which achieved the first in the world. And when research was done, it was because teacher was given top priority in the system. Only those teachers who are trained, passionate for teaching, they will go for teaching. And that is what NEP also has mentioned now, the introduction of ITEP, where it starts from class 12, where they want to invite only those who really are passionate to the teaching that can take place. They will do well in classroom. How have we treated our teachers? They are not given the salary that teachers are getting. We can't think of them except the higher education teachers, which is really very, very sad.
Since we're talking about teachers' salary, I want to ask this question to Dr. Rusievan. Doctor, we know that education has got the highest, the top priority for the government, because we see the allocation also is the highest for education. It's at 15.1%, which comes to rupees 350 crore for 24-25. However, sad but true, more than half of that money goes to payment of salary of the teachers. And what is left for infrastructure, and what is left for it to be implemented in other technological and modern intervention that were mentioned in NEP or in other interventions?
Whenever the budget session is there, especially with this government, the highest budget will go to education. That is being seen. But how you use that budget, it depends on the government. As you said, most of that budget goes into salary. Yes. But teachers are still in the streets demanding for the salary. That is also a very funny part. So when you talk about infrastructure, I don't know, this is like it's very funny that in Shillong, you will find schools with smart boards, smart class. But in the rural areas, you won't even have a roof over your head in the schools. Last few weeks, our President Barden, he went to Garo Hills, and that photograph which he has taken with the background of a school in Dalu, West Garo Hills, has gone viral. And the dilapidated condition of that school speaks volumes about the way that the government spend on the schools, on the government schools. Now let's take this one example. Before the AAP government in Delhi, the government schools there almost shut down. All the private schools charge a maximum fees from the parents for school education. And parents flock to the private schools for their children's education. But when the AAP government came, they revamped the whole system. And now, all those same parents flock to the government institutions. If Delhi can do it, why not our state? If Kerala can do it, why not our state? If Mizoram can do it, why not our state? Where have we gone wrong, as Sir Jemino has asked during his first statement? Where have we gone wrong? Let us not talk big that we have allocated this much of budget to education because we care about education. But what you are doing in reality is contradicting to what you are saying. We know that past governments also have failed in addressing many problems, but the present government should see what the earlier government has done and rectify that mistakes. But if it keep repeating, doing the same, or even add more to the problems, then we are seeing a very grim future of our students. Sad to say, but it's a reality. Sad to say.
Yes,
Can I,
before,
excuse me, can I just add on that, please?
Yeah, I'll just, before I open the floor to question and answers, yes, I was going to ask the last question to you.
I'll just answer
Yes,
on
yes,
this first,
yes,
please.
please.
Regarding the resources that we have, the NEP 2020 also states that 6% of the country's GDP should be utilized on education. Our state, the GDP, the 2024 GDP, it's around 50,000 crore plus. And recently in a program conducted by Forefront Media, we heard that 3,600 crore was sanctioned for education. Now this comes to around 7% of the GDP of our state. When we look at the numbers, our state, the GDP of our state is still less. We need to increase. Like Sir said, we need to plug the leakages so that the GDP increases, and thereby education would be benefited. We have more funds. If there's not enough funds for infrastructure, increase the GDP. Like one old man used to tell me when I complain about inflation, he says the only solution is kamai khambun. Kamai khambun. So that's where our state, that's what our state should do. They should earn more, plug the leakages, all the points that Sir mentioned, they are rightly put. We have to take care of our economy so that our students are being taken care of. Thank you for the time again.
Yes, so yes, I want to ask this question to you, Ni. Do you think that right to education RTE is being implemented in letter and spirit in our state? Because of course, it mandates that every child should get can avail free education in our country. However, when you look at the situation right now, everybody's been talking about this. Most of the children, most of the parents would want to send their children to a private school because they don't want to send them to a government school because of A, B, C reason. And we all know the reasons. But the only problem here is these private schools would, charge exorbitant fees. So is there any such clause even in the RTE that monitors the fee structure of schools irrespective of whether they are government school or private schools?
Coming to the RTE 2009, it talks about inclusivity. It talks about enrolling students. We have a universal education system whereby students for the age group of 6 to 14 get free education. And then the other aspect is the private education systems, institutes, they're charging high fees. Till now, we haven't heard of a cap being introduced whereby institutions can't charge a fee beyond certain limits. But the RTE also provides, there's a provision where 25% of the enrollment in the school should be for students from the EWS, the economically weaker section or the backward section. But if you look at it, is it really practical? Is it possible for a student coming from a backward section, from the less privileged class, to attend a school where students are being dropped off in school by SUVs? They won't find it comfortable there. So we have to tackle this matter in a different way, I feel. Like Sir said, in the rural areas, we have to have schools which have the facilities that are comparable to schools in the town. And in that way, we also tackle the traffic problem also, where schools in the outskirts, they have equal facilities that schools in Shillong town have. So the RTE, if implemented in letter and spirit, it'll be a game changer. But again, if I go back to NEP 2020, it's a huge framework whereby even education for the undergraduates, the 4 years program, in this whole scheme of things, where the center has come up with a policy, the contribution of our state is very cosmetic. Our state has come up with a guidebook. Compared to the NEP 2020, our state, the only intervention that can be seen is a guidebook. Like Sir said, pictures of the CM in the tablet, pictures of the CM in the guidebook. They must be really confident when they did this, because these interventions won't change anything in our state. That's an honest reply, even if I'm representing a political party, but Shillong needs to work together, Meghalaya needs to work together. Egos should be buried right now. We can't afford this. Education, if you bring reforms, should reform a generation.
So I would like to open the floor for question and answer, question round. Any one of you, if any one of you have any question, you are free to ask any of our panelists, and we will try to reply to your questions. Anyone. Actually, this is a platform where you can ask questions. That is why it's called Campus Talk, where you all talk. You raise question, we answer your question. If you have any doubts, we are here to clarify your doubts. So this is a perfect opportunity for all of you to raise your voice. Anyone?
I'm Brenal Marlia from Education UG third semester. So a lot of you have talked about NEP 2020. We all know NEP 2020 emphasizes on vocational education right from secondary stage. Yes. So if we talk about vocational education, they need more teachers, more trained teachers to teach the students. So more need of teachers would obviously increase the fees for tuition fees of college or schools. So my question is, when the school fees increase, then obviously students might face socio-economic problems, as you have said. That's one of the factors that contributes to dropouts of schools. So my question is, how do you think the government can take initiative in addressing this problem?
Dr. Minnette, would you like to answer that?
So I think so, even if not only about coming to the college students, we see that at the secondary level, the dropout rate is also high, maybe because the RTE Act, they're not getting, it's not covered for the 9 and 10. So I think so there are initiatives which they're trying to bring about, because there has been talk, that if we can do something to extend the RTE Act for Meghalaya so that these aids can be provided to the children. So maybe in the near future, I think so, if certain steps can be taken from the side of the government to look into, the school fees or the college fees of the college students, so that it doesn't go up to that extent. So they, and then also having, some kind of an initiative where they can support colleges to have these, maybe a cluster of, say, a cluster of colleges. They can have some kind of a complex system where they can have a hub and spoke model. So initiative has to be taken from the government, and policies and, implementation guidelines have to be looked properly so that it don't affect the people from the lower economic background.
Thank you, ma'am. Because of time constraint, we'll have to end this discussion, and I would like each and every one of our panelists to give a brief closing remark, And we would like to end with, with offering solutions and, actionable recommendations which can be implemented in the ground. So what is the way forward? And how can these campaigns like Go Back to School campaign, like the guidebook campaign of the CM Impact, how can they be implemented to reintegrate or to bring back these school dropouts into the system? We'll start with Dr. Minnette. Please make your closing remark very brief, Ma.
Okay. So my closing remark would be that, proper monitoring, review, and also, as I've said, rationalization of schools and then consolidation of schools so that resources can be used to the optimum level, and also, building at the foundational stage, which is very important. And then also the curriculum needs to be thought of about so that the child can be, it can be applicable. And then these vocational courses should align with the job needs. Everybody takes the responsibility of addressing the issues of dropout and also of improving the school education so that we can have a quality education and educational system where the learning outcome of the children is being met. Yes.
We have heard so many things today. Out of the discussion, we learned that there are many problems and the solution should be there. And it takes the willpower of the government, the cooperation of the schools management, the parents' awareness, the community involvement, and all the stakeholders of education. Now, most of the time when we talk about school dropout, we blame the students because of their lack of interest, because of this, because of that. But when we look at the crucial factor, it always comes to the government because it is the implementing agency. When the government framed or introduced the SSA mission, the main objective of the SSA mission was to reduce the dropout rate. Now with the number of schools, of SSA schools in our state, why has the dropout rate increased? The same thing. NEP, I don't think it will solve the dropout rate. It will enhance the dropout rate, just as we have now in the college. And I speak very clearly that most of the students who have experienced this curricula under the NEP, they have faced serious issues now. I speak with confidence that in some years, we will see what NEP 2020 will do to our college students. They introduced the policy without any practicality. We need not only an overhaul or a reform of education, but we need a revolution of education in our state.
I must also say the same that there should be a systemic approach where all the stakeholders take action on this very important issue. It's not only a problem as rightly mentioned, it is an issue right from the political leaders. There should be a political will, as rightly mentioned, and the involvement of the community engagement is very, very important. The teachers, which should have been given a very important place, I feel that the salary has to be upgraded, and the problems of the teacher has to be looked into, which is really very, very important. If we are to implement any new policy, it is very important that orientation or awareness programs should be enhanced so that the people will, not only have the knowledge about the various benefits of the policy, but also accept and take active part in the policy, which is really very, very important.
We have been discussing a lot about the problems of school dropouts. And from school dropouts, we have also touched on the various aspects relating to the education system. So we can understand that to move forward can also be a very difficult task. But let me also say that for the last so many years, we have been quite okay once upon a time, but now we are on a downslide. Okay? So something is wrong. Something ails the education sector. And especially now, when we are in this transitional period, there's a lot of confusion going on. So these are challenges, in as far as the state of Meghalaya is concerned also. But I feel that let us not be disheartened. Let us not be disillusioned. We have problems. There are problems. We have all kinds of schools in the state of Meghalaya. We have all kinds of different categories of teachers in the state of Meghalaya. To bring uniformity in the entire system and to take the educational sector, educational system forward also can be very difficult because of the disparity that exists in many areas. But I feel a time has come when we have to think of making bold decisions also. And if there is a need to bring about the much needed change in the educational reforms, I think it is time for us to wake up.
Yeah, and in conclusion, we've had a very productive session. The things that we've spoken about, the challenges that we have as a state, we believe where there is a will, there is a way. We look at 3 points in conclusion. We've been talking about rationalization of schools and teachers, but let's make sure when we are undergoing this process, accessibility to education is not hampered. Our students should have access to schools and proper education. That's one point. Second, collaboration again. Collaboration between students, student-teacher, teacher-parents, parents with the management of the schools or education system, the school ecosystem with the government, and so on and so forth. The third point, we have to create an ecosystem whereby when we are producing or supplying this healthy number of students who have passed out from our education system, we should be able to absorb these students who have passed out from our system. Sending students abroad to work as nurses is not a solution. We are just wasting our investment. We should invest and reap the benefits whereby we get the service from the best nurses, the best doctors. There shouldn't come a time whereby we face a brain drain situation, whereby our state is bereft of experts in their field. When we grow old, we can't be treated by the leftover doctors, the leftover nurses. So this aspect should be taken care of. We should be able to absorb the student population when they finish their education. This is my submission. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Banphira. Like Jemino said, something ails the education sector, and we need to do something about it. So yes, the goal of this panel discussion today is to shed light on the real, raw challenges faced by the students and educators in Meghalaya, and to determine whether the initiatives that the government is taking, like the NEP or the CM Impact, the guidebook on the CM Impact, whether they are genuine solutions or just temporary distractions. Ultimately, we aim to formulate actionable recommendation that can ensure that quality education for all students in Meghalaya, to ensure also that we create a future where students aren't just passing exams, but they are truly thriving, they are growing, and they are learning. So with that, we have come to the end of this panel discussion. I would once again take this opportunity to express my gratitude to Dr. Minnette, Dr. Rusievan Shangpliang, Professor Nongbri, Dr. Jemino, and Banphira for sparing your time out to be here with and for speaking on this very important topic, which requires a call to action. Thank you very much.